Lentra and CNBC TV-18 Digital Lending Summit, Mumbai, India.
We have been talking a lot about digital transformation, better customer experience, and lending evolution. But none of this can be achieved without effective collection, usage, and management of data and analytics. So I can assure you that we'll leave the room a little wiser on that front after getting some more insights from our next fireside chat that we have focused on the data-driven decision-making in lending. So for this session, we have our speaker, Mr. Markandey Upadhyay, who is the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Piramal Capital and Housing Finance. Mr. Markandey has been at the forefront of driving organizational changes, using business intelligence, data science, and best-in-class AI/ML to automate journeys with accuracy and speed. And along with him, we have, as the moderator, our veteran, Mr. Rangarajan Vasudevan, our Chief Data Officer at Lentra, whom we, popularly who is addressed as Ranga. Ranga has spent 17 years building data-native applications that span industries and geographies, and has been pivotal in driving innovation at Lentra and transforming digital landscape. So please join your hands and welcome Mr. Markandey and Mr. Ranga.
So good afternoon. Hope it's audible at the back as well. Great, thank you. So let me just begin by having a bit more detail into some of the things we're doing from an analytics and AI perspective. I'll spend about 5 to 6 minutes, and then I'll invite Markandey as well on the stage. So I hope everybody had a chance to look at some of the launches that we did in the main room. So one of the things that you might have seen is we picked small use cases which we think are solvable in a way that makes sense for our clients directly. And these use cases are grounded. They're not outlandish. And the reason for that is AI as a landscape is evolving very, very rapidly. Like 6 months ago, things looked very different. I'll give you an anecdotal example here. When ChatGPT was first launched late last year, everybody was very excited, of course. As end consumers, we started playing with it. Then what ended up happening was very novel use cases started coming in. Like people started solving math problems, right? The legal bar exam in the US was one of the first competitive exams to be taken down, so to speak, in the sense of AI actually solving for it and answering questions in a way that a human top-notch lawyer would do. And then it started to talk about design-related problems, where it took a shot at designing UX of software. Then it started to work on code directly, like generating code, generating test cases for the code, etc. So at that time, the sky was a limit, so to speak, right, in terms of what you could think about. Then came a specific set of events that happened in March, April timeframe. I'm not sure how many in the industry took a look or took notice. But what happened was the same, or I should say similar set of problem statements which AI, or specifically ChatGPT from OpenAI, was very good at. The instances of ChatGPT in March, April timeframe started to show a dip in performance. So what that meant was, where it was really good at solving, let's say, long-form algebraic expressions and coming up with an answer, it was getting it right between 87 to 88% when it was first launched. But around the March-April timeframe, that went down to as little as 3%. Right? So as end users, many of the internet crowd were really, really surprised, right? Because it's the same API, same company, similar type of problem statements we used to see before. So what ended up getting surmised, but this was never clarified by OpenAI, the company, was that the nature of the ML model, or the model that was running behind the scenes when these ChatGPT interfaces were used, has changed. And the company has not informed the consumers about it. So in a sense, the consistency in the model became a challenge. Right? And that was one of the first setback moments that happened in the evolution of the recent evolution of AI interfaces. Additionally, what also was a very big concern was privacy, right? If data was being used for prompting how AI can help you in your business, is that data being used by the AI engine behind the scenes to learn more? And will that data be exposed to some other client? Right? That became a concern. Data privacy was an issue. Likewise, there were a couple of other issues related to ease of operationalization, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, I think we're still some ways away from making AI mainstream in the current avatar, right? There is still some maturity cycle that this has to go through. And that's where we took a step back and said, as Lentra, we are in the business of solving for lending to be transformed completely to make it a consumer-friendly experience. What can we do to make AI more usable? Instead of just launching yet another interface and asking the client to figure it out, we took a stance and said, let's actually boil the ocean ourselves. Let's figure out which are the small use cases which are meaningful, which can add immediate value. And that's what we've been spending our time behind the scenes innovating. And what you saw were 3 examples of brand new products. And for those of you who have been customers with us for quite some time, I can tell you that there are 40 more features built along the same lines in our existing LOS, MB, multi-bureau, BRE products. Right? So that's the kind of innovation we've been driving over the last 6 to 9 months, right? Ever since this AI revolution has taken up. So that's my preamble for today. I'd like to invite on stage Markandey, please. If you can just give a round of applause. Please. So in this fireside chat, rather fireside in Indian context doesn't apply as much. In this cool chat, I should say, we've got an esteemed panelist who's brought in many, many years of analytics experience in the asset business.
Yes, that's correct.
Right? So with that, actually, it gives a very good opportunity for us to ask the kind of questions that we think everybody in the room can learn from. So data is the core underlying principle for any AI system. Doesn't matter modern AI, old AI, predictive machine learning, like classical machine learning. So what are your thoughts of what constitutes a good data strategy or a good data-driven enterprise?
It's a very profound question you're asking. I mean, a lot of time is taken very easily. I mean, but if you go deep into it, there is so much more meaning to this question. I have been always in financial services. I've worked with banks. First, I worked with multinational bank, then worked with Indian bank. Now I'm working with the NBFC. And most part of my career, except like last few years, what really data meant was what was coming from the core banking system or core lending system. That's what was getting into data warehouse. That's where all the analytics, AI model, and other things was happening.
Correct. Yeah.
However, there were thousands of calls used to come into a call center. Call centers are generally outsourced for financial services. They happen on a certain software. Those software provider used to give access to those calls through a decoder where you can listen to one call by one call.
Correct.
But
I remember Dragon, naturally speaking, was one of the oldest software.
Yeah,
right? Correct.
yeah. But I don't think as a financial services, we had access of that data where I can programmatically access it. Because it was decrypted, it was there into that whole, framework. Then I wanted to do one project on fraud protection. I'm talking about my previous job, not the current job. And what we found is that most of the time in ATM fraud, when it was taking place, the people, those who used to go do something random, put some machine or break or whatever it is, their actions were very different than a normal person when he goes into ATM and withdraw money. And because we're part of the bank, a lot of time when these things were happening, we could go back to our that CCTV recording, get that video. We could train a model which could work on when someone is doing something not right and someone is doing right, because someone doing right was very, very predictable behavior. People walking to ATM, like, pulling up their purse, putting their card, like, trying, getting the money.
Yeah.
But like these guys, when they are going, they are looking this side, that side, like, their hand movement, this, then what they do, when even they are doing something, their head is somewhere else. Like, it's, very easily predictable by AI by looking into few frames that this person is not in ATM with the right intention.
Interesting.
And when you have a model, like, being from data science and AI, your first instinct is, let's implement it. When we had to implement it, again the question came that, okay, actually all our CCTV infrastructure are outsourced. It is managed by a vendor. That vendor puts CCTV and manages the security. And that vendor was paid only that much that he could not manage that kind of compute, which could be put on edge, which will do, like, those frame analysis, like, generate alarm and all. Very difficult to, like, implement. And I'll be very honest, even very difficult to get access of that data programmatically, but it belonged to
the bank, right?
Belonged to the bank.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we really didn't feel that, it is, there was, like, it was like, and I'm not saying even today it will be outsourced in a lot of financial institutions. And when you want it, you can go and access it. So it's not that you cannot access it. But through a program in a manual way, that data is not stored anywhere in a particular cloud or any place. You don't have a programmatic access. Must be like, lakhs and lakhs of email would be coming every month from the customers. It would be lying somewhere in the server. But, analytics used to happen in a very fancy manner, like, when someone wants to do something with NLP and because, I'm talking about 2-3 years back, there was no Gen AI.
Correct.
So, organization has to really think holistically when they are thinking of data. And if they think holistically, create that infrastructure, create that capacity, there is so much to gain. Business can be really data-driven. Within my current organization, a lot of time we talk about this. We wish to be like, AI-first company. We talk, are we AI-first company today? Not. Are we using AI? In a very, very significant manner. But to become AI-first company, you have to be data-first company.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the foundation.
And people have to not take it lightly, this question. Do I have a good, right, sound data strategy? And when you think of data strategy, it should not be only structured data coming from the core system. It has to be all the data which is being generated by your business or business activity has to be thought about.
And I think if I were to summarize this, I guess you were saying those examples were very good examples of data that we would normally not centralize or think about as important.
Yeah.
But if you are able to put it all together into a single place,
yeah,
you can call it what you want, like a lake or a warehouse or whatever, right? But if it's centralized, it makes it easy for everybody to get access to it, and you start to do these applications.
And the value which can be derived from those data will be much, much higher than like any expenditure which you would be doing. And sometimes it's not just about the immediate expenditure. What will be the future of business? I was in US last week, and in Seattle, we went to the executive briefing center of AWS. And they took us to 2 places. Most of the talk about AI, Gen AI, but 2 physical places. One, Amazon Go store, where you just walk in, walk out, done. So much, video and other data is being analyzed, and decision is being made, transactions are taking place seamlessly. Then I was in a fulfillment center of, and my God, it's not from this world. You would feel that it's sci-fi. the way the order comes and fulfillment happens. Like,
in fact, that brings me to my next question, Markandey. I
Yeah.
think in lending,
yeah,
unlike retail, it is still a money business, right? In the sense of people view it very close to their hearts, especially
Yeah.
emerging countries like India. So, how do you still retain that human touch in this kind of a market? But obviously, automation plays a critical role.
yeah.
How do you balance the two?
I think you have to segment the business, like lending business. And if I do a very dumb segmentation, like say small ticket business and large ticket business. Small ticket consumer durable business where ticket size could be anywhere between 5,000 to 50,000.
Sure.
Here, like the dynamics of business doesn't allow you to do with a human touch. I mean, it will not be affordable. I mean, you just cannot do it.
Because the customer is not waiting for you to come back with a decision, right?
I mean, customer is a e-commerce customer.
Sure.
And he's looking to make a purchase, and he wants credit to be fulfilled then and there. So his expectation is not the way that typically financial institutions have worked. It has to be instant. Second, you cannot go take file, take his PAN, physical card, and have an underwriter underwriting. I mean, just cost dynamics doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So their decision has to be made digital. And there, I was just talking to someone from your organization only, that you guys are enabling a lot of data collection APIs, getting that at one place, how to consume it in a systematic way through AI and make decisions becomes extremely important. I mean, there is no other way. I mean, if the question is, can I do that business other way? I really don't think you can do that business profitably other way. I'm not saying by doing that it will be a profitable business or not. That's a different thing.
Because the margins are still low, right?
Margins are still low. Credit costs are still high.
Exactly. Yeah.
But there is no other way. Sure. I mean, if you want to make it successful, that's the only way. When it comes to large ticket, you have to have, I mean, our strategy is high tech and high touch. Really use all the data pieces in a very systematic way through AI, but don't lose the local touch. And we are a lender for Bharat, so, and we get to deal with real Bharat customers. Someone running a kirana store, someone is a tailor, someone is running a small dairy shop.
So it comes back to that segmentation that you talked about. If you segment the population, in this case, the Bharat that wants credit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you said high tech,
high touch. Yeah, absolutely. High tech in the sense, man and machine has to work together. If only man has, I mean, man thinks that, no, I understand this location very well, I understand this business very well, and get into ego, then I don't think they'll be making, I mean, as an organization, they'll be making optimal decision. Maybe there could be one or two individuals who could be very good high-end underwriter, who could do something, but if you have to do the business at a scalable way, you have to have thousands of underwriters, across India, I mean, across every town, without having them aided by that high-tech data, I mean, and scoring and AI, I don't think you will be doing optimal business. Also, if you are just having high-tech business where, you are just wish to make decision without, having someone there, then there are a lot of local nuances in India. So my view is, if it is a small ticket, there is no choice. It has to be very data AI-driven. If it is large ticket business, secured business, collateral. I mean, collaterals have a lot of dynamics which are very, very local. So you have to have that high tech and high touch approach. And we have that, I mean, and we really have invested heavily into this.
So on that note, when you mentioned this combination of high tech and high touch, I would imagine, still need to justify what is the ROI of that high tech, right? Because the high touch part of it is very easily understood. That's the age-old operations that everybody's been doing in lending.
Yeah.
But how do you justify the high-tech nature of the ROI?
So thanks for asking that question. Good thing is, lending business at scale, justifying that high tech is not very difficult. I'm making a normal average size bank, I'm saying private sector bank, would be disbursing 10,000 crore per month of retail lending. if through high touch, if they are getting a X credit cost, by being high tech, even if they can reduce it by 20 bips or 30 bips, of 10,000 crore, 20 bips, 30 bips is a big number.
It's a big number.
Big number.
But how do you go about measuring it? Like, can you say that 20 bips is attributable to that high tech?
Yeah. I mean, there is I can explain you very mathematically. Generally, I'm not someone who just talk like, I like to draw things. But just giving you an example. So suppose you are in an environment where you have your credit score running, and credit scores can be used for multiple purposes. Actually, it can be used for approved decline. It can be used for ticket size sloping. It can be used for rate of interest, risk-based pricing. It can be used for tenure. We did an experiment where we took, in my previous job, where we took 50 cases, and those cases were from the past. So already those cases were like, we knew that what was the decision. I mean, they were like, approved or reject.
Sure.
We took randomly 50 cases. We sent it to our 500 underwriters that just you make decision on each case. And you send it to us. Yeah. When we saw the result, it was, our hypothesis was that there will be a huge variance, the way different underwriter will make decision about that cases. But the result was more than surprising. What we found is in 50% of the cases, those 500 underwriters were split 50-50.
Interesting.
From the same organization. So just luck of that file. If it would have been gone to that underwriter, it would have been approved. If it had gone to that underwriter, it would have been rejected.
So there's not even as though you have a stable baseline.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you know, then, I want to build that, how mathematically you justify. Then there was an environment where we were using model only for approved or decline. So if a score is less than this, decline, more than this, approve. And score is not just one number. Score is a mathematical continuous number you can see by design. When it was not enforced, only thing was enforced is approved and decline. We saw that approval rate across score bands were very, very similar. Of course, here it was reject. However, because it was a score, the credit performance of those same people were very different.
Yeah,
if they were of, lower approved score, and they were higher, the risk performance was much, much superior there and here. But the approval rate was same. Then we went and we said that, no, wherever you have a higher score, your approval rate has to slope it. So we demanded that, if it is higher decile, approval rate has to be 95%. Here, before rejecting, suppose it is, say, 0 or 5, because there also some deviation can happen, so I'm saying 5. First marginal decile, it is, say, 40%, 50%, but it has to be slope.
Understood.
Moment you slope it, and not I'm just saying approval and decline. Moment you slope it, your credit cost goes down significantly.
Correct.
If you slope the pricing, your profitability goes high. Moment you slope the ticket size, your credit loss goes down. If you slope the tenure, you are getting so huge mathematical benefit, absolutely quantifiable you can get. Most of the lending businesses are doing cross-sell. When you are not doing the cross-sell, either you are doing through DSA or DST. DSA, DST को 2%, 3%, 2.5% डिपेंड अपॉन, सेक्योर प्रोडक्ट थोड़ा कम भी देते हैं. अब देते हो,
Yeah. You might as well insource it through.
Cross-sell जब आप करते हो, you don't pay to anyone for that customer. And credit performance for any organization, I am not saying just my organization. Any organization, people, those who have been cross-sold from existing base, their risk performance will be much superior compared to what they would source from through the door.
Cool. Yeah, I think.
So, and what you are paying to outside, like, I mean, if you are doing, say, 5,000 crore business and paying 2%, 100 crore you are paying. Here you are paying nothing.
Sure, that's an immediate
So
uplift.
I am just saying numbers are mind-boggling. Like, don't worry about guys like numbers. If you are working for an organization which is doing a sizable business, I mean, if you're doing a small business, then like, I mean, nanga nahayega kya nichodega kya bolte hain. But if you are like, doing a sizable business, like, there is, I mean, no need to make extra effort to justify. I mean, it pays handsomely.
Sure. Cool. Thank you. Thanks very much, Markandey. I think that was an excellent anecdote at the end. There's enough math, right? Thank you. Thanks again very much.
Thank you.
Lentra and CNBC TV-18 Digital Lending Summit, Mumbai, India.